When Psalms 59 tells us that, Psalms 59:10, I believe it is, says that over Edom I threw my shoe. What this means is that it was an ancient Middle Eastern literary device, or it was a Middle Eastern idiom, near Middle Eastern idiom that meant to claim ownership of. So when he says he's over his shoe, over Edom he throws his shoe, he's saying that he owns it. Back in the day, they would throw a shoe over a land of property to say that they owned it. And it's interesting because he says that Zion is where he places his feet, and Zion is the human soul, the largest thing in all of creation, where God desires to inhabit and walk among his people, walk among the people of the earth. It's interesting how God says that he owns the nations that surround Israel. He owns all of them, but it's interesting. Something else that I find very interesting is that when David is speaking about his enemies and how he's crying out to God to have victory over his enemies, this is symbolic of our wrestling with sin. All of the battles in the Old Testament have to do with, they're symbolic of spiritual warfare, and so this is very significant. And I want you to keep this in mind when you read the Old Testament, and keep this in mind when you read the Psalms, when you hear of David crying out to God for victory over his enemies, and how he moans about how his enemies are oppressing him. Those enemies for the Christian today are Satan and his evil cohorts, and our fallen human nature. And so when we cry out to God for victory over these habitual sins and so forth, a lot of times God will allow one of his servants that are devoted to him to fall into a grave sin in order to keep him humble. That way, when God delivers him from it, he will remember that and he can have compassion on others as well, and he stays humble, because otherwise he'll fall into the pit of pride. God will do this to save us from pride, because pride is a complete anti-God state of mind. God bless you.